highlights of the annual debt report for 2022, stretching from 2021, August, September to 2022, September. I am not going to read the report. It shall be available to members. It's a long report that you'll need to get time to go through it. It is still a draft report for now because we also want to hear, to take from your brains, from your experiences. And so we are going to feed it and enhance it from the discussions that are going to take place between today and the day after tomorrow. So it is still a draft document. Perhaps that is why it has not been given to you, because it is not ready for circulation. We are still drafting. But we are able to put on the table the highlights of the report. And the report will consist of about 6 key issues that we think are fundamental, that we think are the linchpin, the bedrock of us to understand the challenges of debts in Zimbabwe. By the way, the problem of debt is not a Zimbabwean problem alone. Currently, it is a problem globally, but African countries are also in a worse situation because of our history, the history that we have in terms of the development dynamics within the continent. So it will cover the issues of the quantum of the debt, the discussion around the quantum of the debt. That the report will cover that. It will also cover the landscape, the debt landscape in the country. More interesting for me, it will cover the issue of parastatals. I can't write a document without making reference to state-owned enterprises, public entities, parastatals, because I was in charge of them. So I have intimate relationship with them. So that is why the report that involves me will have some kind of stuff around the issues of parastatals and local authorities. We also have in that report the issue of SDRs, the special drawing rights, which we received last August. So we try and trace them. I will come back to some of these issues, but now I'm just giving you the outline of the report. So there is something around the issues of SDRs, and I shall talk about them later. We also cover the issue of arrears clearance, debt relief, and restructuring agenda of government, and what they are saying, and the discourses around that, and also the discourses around that in Africa, particularly our neighbor in Zambia, because they are going through the processes, they are going through the paces in trying to resolve their own debt crisis. Then finally, we will look at re-engagement. This term re-engagement, which has become like a broken record. Everyone who stands up to speak in public and is from either government or any policymakers, they make reference to re-engagement, and we want to look at that, and we cover that in our report. And finally, like all good reports, it should have recommendations. So we do have recommendations. They may not as good as we would want, because we are here to tap from your brains so that we can enhance those recommendations. The report was compiled after data collection. We collected data scientifically. It's not just sitting there theorizing and just coming up with figures or assumptions. We went out to carry out a scientific research and consulted various stakeholders. The Minister of Finance We got some insights from the Minister of Finance, the Reserve Bank. We got some insights. We got insights from Parliament. We got insights from the Auditor General's office, from captains of industry, from the state enterprises, parastatals, from civic society, from academics we got. So we collected. Above that, we analyzed our own reports, the civic society reports, the reports that have been produced by AFRODAD and ZIMCODD over the past 3 years, 2019, 2020, 2021. We analyzed those reports to see whether the recommendations have been taken on board or whether they have not. Then we also cover that. We also analyzed various documents, including documents from government, whether these are from the Office of Debt Management, the Debt Management Office, from the Minister of Finance, from all over. We brought together and add to that the literature, academic literature and grey literature as well. So we then came up with the report. So as we put on the table the issues, there are issues that are coming from research. Obviously, with this kind of research, there are challenges of data opaqueness. There are people who will not give you the information that you want. There's always hiding of information. There's always a fear. So our information is not complete at all, not even quarter. Say we try to come up with something, but we know that it is not anywhere nearer to the real picture of the debt landscape in this country. And that's the problem with dealing with these kind of situations. But we tried our best to produce the report. Can I put on the table point number one, that is one highlight of the report? The quantum of the debt in Zimbabwe. It was very, very difficult, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, to really say how much do we owe as Zimbabwe sovereign debt. Very, very difficult. There are figures all over. The Ministry of Finance, in its presentation to Parliament in July the 28th, said the debt, the sovereign debt that we owe, the external debt rather, is approximately 13.2 billion, and domestic debt about $1.3 trillion. That's the official figure. By the way, in matters of debt management, debt analysis, official figures are always treated with suspicion. So I put on the table that the official figure that we got is from July is 13.2 for external debt and 1.3 trillion RTGS or Zim dollars, if I may say, for domestic debt. So those are the official figures. But the calculations and estimations by various organizations, institutions of note, of credibility. For example, the estimation from the IMF speaks about of $17 billion, approximately $17 billion. And you see the difference between what is obtaining as the official record and what the other estimations. Civic society is speaking of 19, others are speaking of 21, and there are good reasons for that. It's not just ballooning numbers. There are good reasons for that. It's out of analysis. So that's one item that I want to put on the table, that it is difficult, and I'll talk about why it is difficult. But for now, suffice to say, the figures that we have are contested figures. Point number two I put on the table is what I would call the brighter side. The brighter side in 2021 to 22. The brighter side, what we can smile about, in terms of debt management. We should not just criticize. We should also look at the things that are okay. So I want to put on the table the brighter side, the good side, the light side of debt management in our report. What came out and we thought, oh, this is good. But always, there are always questions, even if it is good. I put on the table that in the year under discussion, at least the government of Zimbabwe has started paying or servicing its the debts. That is something that we should appreciate. So the government of Zimbabwe has paid about $59.3 million towards debt servicing. Of this amount, 9.6 is the one that went into token payments, the 9.6. But the 49.7 went into actual active portfolios, which means paying, servicing our debts with China, with the Kuwait, those that have not been a problem. But the 9.6 went to the token payments, to maybe it should be the World Bank and all others, the Paris clubs and all others got something. But the challenge with this is that it will create, or it creates, some kind of discomfort. Because our world, the world that we are living in now, is a dynamic world which is divided into global south and global north. So it looks like the government has paid funds to the global south, to the friends, to Kuwait, to China and the others. And so in terms of active portfolios, the global south were friends of government, or were friends of Zimbabwe, or apparently also friends of Africa, got their share, 49. And look at that, just oppose that to the 9.6 that is paid to our traditional creditors, traditional lenders. They will frown and say, okay, you are happy to service the debts of your friends and ours that you have been owing over the years. You are paying lip service. So it becomes a challenge down the line when you come up with debt restructuring conferences like we shall talk about later. But as a point, nominally, we should acknowledge that something like that has been done. But from a civic society perspective, one would then say it's a problem when it comes to issues of debt justice. You have paid $59 million during a time of COVID, during a time when people are hungry, during a time when the schools, civil servants, and everybody else is suffering, and you pay all this money. So these are some of the dynamics. These are real challenges that policy makers, policy shapers, policy thinkers should engage with. But I put on the table, number 2, something that we should appreciate as well. We appreciate that the government, at least, they are beginning to provide debt information. That alone is very good. For example, we have the 2021 report from government through the debt management office. The fact that they have provided that is very good. We appreciate it. But it still has limitations in terms of details. We need all the bolts and all the nuts. What they have generally are the figures which are not necessarily disaggregated. But we appreciate, particularly 2021, because they've given us the information in terms of the creditor by country, creditor by country. We also have the report about the blocked funds from them. They have given us the details about the blocked funds, which I'll talk about later. They also gave us the report about SDRs, the special drawing rights. So we do appreciate, but we then say, wait a minute, let's look at the usefulness, really, of this information in terms of data analysis, in terms of checking or checks and balances. We will then say, okay, there is still need for improvement. There is need to disaggregate the data. We need the details, cross the T's, dot the I's, have the nuts and bolts for us to analyze, for scholars, for civic society, for business, for creditors to understand the nature, the quantum, the character of the debt in the country. So that is important. That transparency, information transparency is important. But number three, we also appreciate that they came up with the borrowing plan. They came up with the issues calendar for 2022. They also came up with the borrowing strategy. Again, these instruments are important for data analysis and debt management. So we appreciate that. Number five, we appreciate that they've appointed a champion to lead, to champion the debt restructuring process in the country. The appointment of the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Kanyoe Adesina. I think, and we believe that it was the right choice. He comes from Africa, and African Development Bank is the apex bank in Africa, a development bank in Africa. It was formed by African leadership in 1963, along with the formation of the Organization for African Unity. So it is a pan-African institution, though of course some of the shareholders are now from Euro-Western countries. But the fact that we have a champion in the name of Adesina, he has the pedigree, he has the charisma, he has the stamina, he has the aura, he has the ear of the world by being the president of the African Development Bank. So proposing him and him accepting that, we see that as a good move. We also appreciate the proposal to have a high-level panel, a high-level forum on debt, where you bring all the creditors. I hope it is going to be real high-level and inclusive, not just calling and leaving out business, leaving out civic society, leaving out academics, media, and everybody. It should bring in some people. People should learn from what Zambia is doing. Zambia is coming up with these kind of committees, and they are trying to be transparent and trying to be inclusive in their approach, in their analysis, and in their thinking. So that is important, and we hope if the Zimbabwe government is going to learn and read our importance and appreciate the recommendations that we make there. Having said that, what is the darker side? The darker side, the flip side, what we see and we raise in the report. We raise in the report, number one, the problem of lack of implementation of debt policies. We are having all these policies, including the policies that I said they have crafted, whether this is a borrowing strategy, whether this is the issues calendar. These things are not followed. They are good when they are produced. You can tell that there are some minds behind the production of these documents, but the actual implementation is zero. And that is why we are still borrowing, and our debt to GDP ratio is 73 point something, against the recommended ratio of 70% by SADC, and against the recommended ratio by the model law on public financial management, which was adopted earlier in the year in Malawi. And I happen to have chaired the meeting that produced, in fact, the committee that produced the model law on public financial management with the SADC Parliamentary Forum, and I can see Honorable Brian, he attended some of those meetings that I chaired, and we came up with a good law. And we are hoping that the Zimbabwean government is going to rectify the law and adopt the law as the government is coming up with its own amendment, the Public Financial Amendment. It is going to extract those good nuances that are captured in that model law on public financial management. So the problem is really in the implementation. I don't know what this disease of failure to implement. I happen to teach in Kigali, University of Kigali. I have seen Rwanda, Paul Kagame demanding from his ministers, from the public service, demanding that things be done. I think if the government of Zimbabwe, the leadership in the government of Zimbabwe can begin to learn from Kagame, but not everything from Kagame, learn that side, because there is other side where we have development without democracy in Rwanda. So that's the problem. There was a debt management strategy for 2017 to 2021. It has expired from 2017 to 2021. Look at it and see what has been implemented really. You find that maybe less than 0.3% of that thing has been implemented. So that's a problem. Problem number two, the darker side, the flip side, the lee side, is that of debt, real debt transparency. We still have debts being contracted by the executive without the knowledge of Parliament. I can see a number of parliamentarians here. There are debts, colleagues, honorable members, there are debts that are being contracted without your knowledge. Ask me. And that's a problem. That the government has continued to contract debt, particularly what we call RBLs, resource-based loans. Resource-based loans are contracted daily, where government is going to pay back using natural resources, platinum, our gold, our nickel, our chrome, our diamonds. So government behind the radar of Parliament, behind the screen of Parliament, government continues to contract debt and without telling Parliament. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, friends, that is why the $13.2 billion is questionable, because there is a lot that happens without the knowledge of Parliament, without the knowledge of civic society, media, and everybody else. So we do challenge the government in our report that let's have debt transparency. These things will come back to haunt government and the people of Zimbabwe when you come to debt restructuring, because there will be hidden debt. We saw that in Malawi in 2015 and up to now, where there was hidden debt. When they tried to restructure the debt and there was hidden debt, the hell broke loose. So you need to be open. Let's have all the dates on the table. Of course, there are reasons why some of the debts they try to hide, because it is immoral when you are mortgaging the country. You are getting a debt. You are paying natural resources, but that debt does not go to the fiscal. It's not used for infrastructure development. It is not used for production and productivity in the country. It is used for consumption. It is used for vehicles. It is used for other things. So that's the problem with the leadership. When you have a leadership that is legally care, we need purposive leadership when you run countries, particularly when you are dealing with matters of debt, because matters of debt are serious. You are engaging the rest of the world. So there is a problem of debt transparency, along that the problem of resource-based loans. Some of you would know the story about Sri Lanka. where the resource-based loans created a problem. The port of Tombantota was taken by the Chinese after Sri Lanka failed to pay. The Chinese said, okay, because we have failed to pay, we will need 25%, but it will be equity. So if it's equity, it means now we own it. After that, they then said, okay, we are going to use that part of the port for our base. They brought in the military. Because of debt, issues of debt, ladies and gentlemen, are serious matters of state. So we would want government to be fair, to be transparent, and that is being raised in the report. There is a problem number 4, poor oversight of parastatals and local authorities. We continue to see these entities asking for debt assumption and government agreeing to assume the debt. We know of debt as big, I mean, some of these things make us, frustrating, depressed. When you have debts from ZBC, Civil Aviation of Zimbabwe, Air Zimbabwe, NRZ, all these debts are now supposed to be assumed, or they've applied for debt assumption, and perhaps we didn't get the actual situation, whether they've been assumed already or they are in the process of being assumed, but finally they will be assumed. But where's the problem? The problem is that government assumes those debts without analyzing, without checking why the debt actually are piled or are accumulated. And in the first place, how do government really guarantee some of these debts? If you take, for example, Tel 1 owes something to the Japanese, owes something to the Germans, owes something to France, owing everybody in the world. And somebody was authorizing, somebody was saying, go ahead and borrow. And we don't see, when you go around, you don't see how that money was used. And now you and me and my son tomorrow is supposed to pay for that, and his children down the line. So there is a problem of oversight of state institutions, which are themselves in paralysis. We have paralysis of parastatals in this country. They are not functional, they are dead. I'm not saying this today. If you check the records, back in 2011, I said in Parliament, the parastatals in Zimbabwe are dead. Not in comatose, but dead. Because they are not providing the services that are supposed to be provided to the people of Zimbabwe. They are not contributing. In the past, they were supposed to contribute about 40% of the GDP of the country. But now, I bet with my last dollar, I don't think, in fact, they are a drain. Instead of contributing anything, they are draining. So we do raise these issues. So are the local authorities. We find that those kind of problems in local authorities. And the Minister of Local Authorities, Minister of Local Government, has been making some directives that are creating problems, creating debts for local authorities. And that's very dangerous, very particularly in a developed state like ours. So we will need, maybe some of them, even if they are ministers of local government, they need lessons. They should come to our lectures, and we try and assist in to understand what devolution is, because devolution is about local democracy, local economies, and local development. Put that as a problem. Problem number 5, which we raise in our report, is around the issue of the debt clearance strategy. Currently, it is not clear, and we hope perhaps the leadership from the ministry will clarify. Currently, it's not very clear what the strategy is. In the documents that we looked at, on one hand is the HIPIC route, the highly indebted poor countries initiative. There's one route. The other one is the hybrid. So we don't know whether they've made a choice, whether they are looking at both. But that clarity, we are at a time when there should be clarity. Zambia started this yesterday, but they are clear now. They have already come up with committees, they are moving forward. I think it's the way IMF or is World Bank, I'm not sure, but one of the two has already pledged some money to ensure that the debt structuring in Zambia is done. Never mind that Zambia also borrowed $145 million to set up a nuclear plant from Russia, even if there are now dynamics between Russia and the other world. But the point I'm making and I'm putting on the table, colleagues, is that there is a problem. There is no clarity. There is need for clarity. That clarity is important for this reason. When dealing with the debt restructuring, there are two tracks. There is the economic and the technical track, and there is a political and a diplomatic track. So we will need to deal with that. You can't do debt restructuring without dealing with ZEDERA. If you're not dealing with ZEDERA, you can talk about having a big committee, a big platform that you are going to have, but still you will hit the brick wall. So there is the diplomatic and the political track that government has to understand. Hence, the policies and bills like members of parliament, the bills that you are currently churning out in parliament, the PVO bill, the patriotic bill, all those bills have a bearing on your restructuring, on your re-engagement of this country. You can't say you are re-engaging on one hand, and you are really saying we are re-engaging, we are pressing the re-engagement button, when actually you are coming up with a bill like the PVO bill, the patriotic bill, the state universities amendment bill, all of which tend to to shrink the civic space, shrink or lead to democratic recession or democratic regression in the country. That's a problem. You will not restructure. So there's that political and diplomatic. You have to engage the world. You can't be saying to hell. We had in the previous government, the famous speech, Tony Blair, keep your England, I keep my Zimbabwe. And the new government came up with saying we are open to business. But now they continue to act like spraying some mosquito repellents. Spray so people go away from them when they are supposed to be bringing in people to them. So we raise the issue of that restructuring cannot be divorced from the political track and the diplomatic track. The economic and the technical track is the one where you are engaging the international financial institutions. You are paying these tokens, but you are also implementing policies that are productive, that are consistent, that are part of the modern society. Because if you say you are engaging the IFIs, at the same time you are not implementing policies that are conducive, that will create the road to debt resolution. That's a problem. The last problem not the last one, the penultimate. The problem of blocked funds. Blocked funds. Government has continued to create debts from nowhere. From nowhere. In 2021 to 2022, we found ourselves in Zimbabwe owing $3.533 billion from Norway. Because I'm sure the guys from the Reserve Bank are here, they can tell us how they created $3.533 billion as equated from Norway. Because perhaps the failure of the auction system, failure to pay those that they are supposed to pay immediately, and then finally we find ourselves with a equated that we do not understand. So this propensity by government to create debt, including debt from on lending. On lending, I'm talking about on lending to agriculture.
There is a lot of debt that is being created there in the name of a good policy, because we definitely need productivity and production in our agriculture for food security and for all kind of things. Agriculture is the backbone. But at the same time, don't create debts through on-lending. Find ways and be clear in your policy thinking and policy shaping and policy implementation. So we raise those issues in the document. And we also raise the issue of SDRIs. I said earlier on in August last year, Zimbabwe received $958 million. $958 million, a windfall. In a country that is struggling to get forex, that is not getting credit lines, offshore credit lines, that is not getting, and all of a sudden you've got 958, almost 960 million. We got that man ourselves in 2009 when I was in government. We got 500 million of SDRs. That $500 million we used to change this country. The $500 million that we got was used to stabilize the economy, kickstart production in the economy, road construction, things began to happen, and there was a kind, you could tell the momentum in the country because of 500. But this time is almost times 2. So we hope we will get some better insights. But for now, it is not clear whether that money has been used accordingly. We are worried. Some of the information that we got is that some of the funds were used for consumptive purposes. Some of the funds were used for TNS. Some of the funds were used for paying civil servants. Some of the funds we just don't know. But when you look at the document presented by the minister, it was a good document that the money was going to be used for COVID, some of it for production in agriculture, for health. It was a good document. It was a good strategy. But again, rewind, implementation is a problem. And we think the issues of corruption also come in here. And when we try to get the information on SDRs, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it was difficult. One of the guys, a very good guy, he said, please don't ask me this one. Please don't ask me this one. And yet somebody from the Ministry of Finance made a mistake in one of the meetings, I think unwittingly, actually said that money is no longer there. Only to retract back and say, no, that was a mistake. But we don't know whether that money is still there. It was supposed to be used over 3 years. And we're told that this year alone we're supposed to draw down about 145 million. But it's all myth. It's all myth. But we do raise these issues. But if the colleagues are there to give us more information so that we can elevate our document, the better. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, the recommendation, I think my time is up now. We came up with the recommendations, but the recommendations that we need will come from you more. But quickly, we talk about public debt audits. We talk about re-engagement in serious stuff, not as rhetoric. Engaging Commonwealth, for example, is a quick win. The Commonwealth people would want Zimbabwe to join. And they've put on the table very simple factors that Zimbabwe should do. So re-engagement is important. And we also put on the table the issues of the regressive laws such as the PVO bills and the like, that you, particularly the MPs who are here, rethink that. Go back to your colleagues and talk to your colleagues that you are being criticized because these bills are not only going to gag civic society, they are also gagging the strategy on resolution of the debt in the country. And we also put on the table the issue of stakeholders engagement. Let's have all the conversation partners involved. I like the word conversation partners than stakeholders because you are bringing everybody else, even those that are not stakeholders. But they are conversation partners. Let them be on the table to engage. And then when you restructure, follow the international and regional principles where human rights are on the forefront when you are restructuring. We are not restructuring just for IMF, the World Bank, or international financial institutions to pay them back. We are also restructuring so that the ordinary citizens will have a better life, will be part of the modern society. I put submissions to you. Thank you.